Hola, mi gente. I know this is unusual, but I am doing something very different this week and I want to be able to start doing it. So, I want to start shouting out some amazing listeners. And this week's listener is Bren. Bren, thank you so much. You comment so often on Spotify with your stories, things that you've gotten out of the podcast. And I just want to say, I appreciate you so much. You are a rock star, and I hope that you keep listening. Now, onto the show. Hola, hola, mi gente. Welcome to another episode of Wine and Chisme. Today, we have Miriam Simon with us, who is a founder, a coach, an author, Renaissance woman. How are you, Miriam?
I'm good. How are you, Jessica? I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm happy to have you here. I'm good. I'm hot. Like I always say, we're literally on opposite coasts. I'm West Coast, you're East Coast, and it was funny you're saying how it's hot there today at 60 degrees. And I was like, girl, that's cold for us San Diego people.
Yes, I had to switch to something cooler because I had a sweater on and I'm like, I can't take it. I can't take it.
Oh my gosh. And today it's like close and on the coast, it's mid 80s, which is very warm for us on the coast because I live, less than a mile from the harbor. So yeah, for us, it's very warm. And inland, I think my husband messaged me earlier, it was like 97.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're waiting for that. We're defrosting. We're waiting for that defrosting out here. We want that so badly, but
We
not
don't
yet.
ever frost.
Yeah. No, we want to defrost. That's where we're at.
Well, I am really excited to have you here. We met through the Latinas in podcasting event. And it makes my heart so happy when I got on and I just saw so many Latinas who are there to, you know, call out for guests, to be a guest, who are sharing their podcasts. Our voices are needed now more than ever. So,
Agreed.
yay! It's so good.
Yes,
Yeah, it's awesome.
absolutely. It is awesome to be surrounded by like-minded individuals and understanding that our voices matter and that we want to be part of the conversation. Like in so many different ways, a lot of times we're not. So
No.
this is really important. Thank you.
Well, and you know that like the listenership, especially among Latinos, uh, is growing and growing. Yet I don't know if you've been frustrated. So I'm just gonna like, as a fellow podcaster, right? But it has frustrated me when I see like all of the podcasts that are really being promoted are just like celebrity podcasts. And then all the podcasts that I see in my feed are all Anglo led podcasts. They're all white led
Agree.
podcasts. And that becomes really frustrating because and anytime I do see a Latina podcast, I'm like, follow, come up, because I want that to come up more. But even when I do, I'm, I'm overwhelmed with people that I just don't relate to. And I think also it's a little, so, okay, I might get hate for this, but I think it's also a little cheap when people just do Reddit podcasts because I don't know. I just think that's like a cheap a cheap listen. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm in the same boat because I'm like, there's so many of us who are talking the real talk and are doing the real work, not only in the podcast world, but like in real life, right? Like
Yeah.
I have a 9 to 5 and I'm doing the real work of corporate America out there and getting to these places. And then you see all these other celebrities. And one of them, I don't know what she was called, and they were like, they're gonna bleep out the bad words. And I'm like, girl, I just say it. Like, I'm not here to
That's
bleep out
right.
anything. Like, if we're gonna have our voice and that's how you speak, then you should be able to speak how you speak. And your people want to hear the real, not hidden behind, right? Assimilation or whatever it is, the reason why you need to be masked for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. I agree.
No, totally. That's why I don't edit out like if a child runs in or if the dog barks or something, because I'm like, this is real life. This is what happens. And in fact, I actually love those moments, right? Because that just goes to show that nobody is perfect and interruptions happen in life. Interruptions happen and podcast interruptions happen, and that's okay. So let me read your bio and then we will share what we are drinking. So Miriam Simon is an executive coach, author, and leadership strategist known for helping high achieving Latinas and BIPOC leaders stop hiding parts of themselves in order to succeed. With over 25 years of corporate leadership experience, Miriam bridges the gap between performance and identity, guiding leaders to reclaim confidence, authority, and self trust in environments that often reward assimilation and authenticity. She is the creator of Identity Integration and the Undivided Leader Framework, a leadership approach rooted in wholeness rather than performance. Miriam's work challenges outdated narratives around professionalism, visibility, and power, especially for women navigating leadership while holding intersecting identities, including ethnicity, gender, motherhood, and LGBTQ plus identity. A Forbes Coaches Council member and Corporate Achiever Award recipient, Miriam brings both lived experience and executive level credibility to every room she enters. Her voice resonates with leaders who are done succeeding at the expense of themselves and ready to lead with clarity, courage, and internal alignment. Miriam is the author of Tattoos and Pearls and host of Latina Mic Drop podcast. Through her coaching, speaking, and writing, she is building a new standard of leadership, one where confidence comes from wholeness, not self-erasure. And I was hoping I was going to get to see your tattoos today too, because
Aquí
on
está.
your social, I was like, oh, they're so nice. I love her tattoos.
Yeah, they're here. So I have this one on my right arm. I have this one on my wrist. So this is actually where the name Tattoos and Pearls came from.
Really?
Over a decade ago. Yes. So I was in my beautiful corporate America, brand new job, and I was filling out my paperwork. And I was telling my manager a little bit about my story and hadn't really told her much. And she goes, "You should write a book." And I said, "What? Write a book? What would I even call it?" And I had my pearl bracelet and the tattoo. And she says, "Tattoos and pearls." I was shocked. And I was like,
Oh my
"No way."
gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I can't wait to hear more of this story.
Yeah.
Share what you are sipping with us today, Miriam.
So I am sipping some Roscaro Moscato.
Ooh.
Okay. And I am sipping it in my pretty fly for a cacti wine glass.
You like the sweet stuff, huh?
Yes, I like the sweet stuff. What about you?
So I am drinking this Concho orange wine, and this is actually from Georgia, the country. This is a Georgian wine. It's actually made in these clay pots. These pots are like huge clay pots that are buried underground.
Wow.
So yeah, I had it for the first time yesterday. It's a very light orange wine. I mean, I was smelling it yesterday and I was like, it doesn't have a very, it's a very faint smell. It's not very strong. It, I would say it's semi-dry, because I'm not a big sweet, wine person, but also I have to be in the mood for that dryness, all of those tannins. So this is actually a perfect wine for this hot day. So, salud, mi amiga.
Salud, salud, salud,
Salud,
salud,
so pretty for a
salud.
cacti.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it's better today. I mean, it was good yesterday. It's been sitting in the fridge, but for some reason, maybe I just didn't let it breathe enough yesterday. But yeah, it's definitely good. I get more of there's definitely like a citrusy uh notes in the back.
Oh
but
yeah.
still on the nose, it's so light
Good.
on the
So good.
nose. Like
Uh-huh.
truly, I I'm like sticking my nose. You could, if you are on YouTube, you could see how much I
Because
have my nose in there.
because it makes a difference, right? It makes a difference when you smell it and
Yeah.
you know what's coming, right? It's like a full experience that you have with it.
Yeah,
Oh
it's so
yeah.
light. So
Yeah.
versus like when you have it still, when you pour it, if you taste it and then you swirl it and taste it, that'll taste even different because you're letting
Mm.
oxygen get into it. It's so crazy, like how all of our senses go together, right?
Oh,
Obviously, when you're in the kitchen, the first what your smells before you eat, you're
yes.
salivating because you're like, oh my
Yes.
gosh, that smells so good. Or even certain things when it comes to like certain things you if I talk about it, I'll start salivating, right?
Oh
It's so
yeah. Oh yeah.
crazy how all of our senses just work
Agreed.
together in regards to give us a full-fledged experience.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I am, like I said, I'm excited to talk about you. I want to hear of how you you know what you talk about in your book. Obviously, you're still, like you stated, you are still working in 9 to 5, and how, like, what you do, how you self practice it as well. But before we get into all that, like, you are in New Jersey. I would love to hear, is that where you grew up? Like, where did you grow up, and how, especially being Mexican on the East Coast, because that's, you know, normally East Coast, especially in the New York, New Jersey area, it's you don't I feel like Mexicans are the minority of the Latina community. So please share.
Yes. So when I came from Mexico with my mom and my dad at 6 months old, and we came to live with my grandparents. And so I asked my mom, like, how the hell did we get to New Jersey? Right? Like everybody's in California, mom, in Texas. Why are we the hell all the way over here? And she says, girl, your grandparents were here and other people from our hometown in Mexico is where that's where they came to. So they had a little place for us to come, and that's where we came. And I grew up in Passaic, New Jersey. So you're right. When I grew up, there were no Mexicans. We were the other people. It was usually African American, a lot of Polish, and Puerto Ricans that were in the area. We were very few Mexicans when I was growing up, and it was not easy at all. And I
I
grew
was
up in the
just about to
hood.
ask, like, how was that the interaction with not only the other others from the Latina community, but just others just in general, not probably not being very familiar with Mexicans.
Yeah, and it was at a time where people were against each other. It was at a time where people didn't understand each other and everybody was in survival mode. So everybody was trying to get resources, trying to figure life out. And it was really hard. It was really hard. Like people had to stay together, like the Mexicans had to hang out together in order for them not to get beat up, in order for them not to have their jewelry stolen, right? The cross their mom bought for them. Things like that, right? Like that. Those are the kinds of things that I grew up. And I grew up seeing like my classmates bothering and bullying the Mexicans after school, like to the point where I would have to like yell across the street and say, Jose, like, why are you bothering that person? Like, why are you bothering them? Right. And I was a kid. I don't know what the hell got into me to even say it, but I've been like that my whole life. And yeah, it wasn't that easy because we were the only ones. I'm usually wasn't there wasn't too many Mexicans around. So, coming into school with your Mexican fluffy dress and your patent shoes,
In
like,
my head, I'm already imagining it.
yeah, like that's not the norm here in the US. So, people make fun of you and then as you grow up, I didn't really have much. And my brother and I ended up sharing sweaters, and I actually write about that in the book because literally we had like champion sweaters. We didn't even have coats sometimes. And so we would just double up on the sweater, think we cool and have that swag and just go. And then
You
we
know,
just
it's
did what we
funny.
did.
It's funny that Champion is like this big brand now, right? Because in fact, my husband didn't even know. I had told him, I'm like, no, Champion's like it now. And he's like, what? No. I'm like, it is. I'm like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when we grew up, Champion was like the Walmart brand, right? The cheap brand. Like
Yep.
all of us had it because so many of us didn't come from money. And now it's like what, what you would pay $10 before, in our day, maybe $20 would equivalent now, but you're paying 50, $60 for. It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's kids
Yeah,
are
when I go to the
on it.
store and right when I go to the store and I see the sweater and the book bags, I'm like, what the heck? What? That's how much they want us to pay for this is what we used to buy. That was cheap that my grandparents
Yes.
could afford and send us to school with that, right? And that was the only ones you had the whole year. So you couldn't get anything else. It was just the one or two, and he had his one or two, and we would just,
switch
share and
switch it
buy.
out. Today you
Yeah,
wear it, tomorrow I'll wear it.
yeah, exactly. I wasn't wearing any pink or red or anything like that, like I normally do. It was just regular black and navy blue, and that's it. That call it a
Oh
day.
my gosh. So growing up in that area, like, was it easy for you to make friends? Was it really hard? Was it just kind of you and your brother against everybody? Like, how because obviously kids can be cruel. Like, we all know that kids can be cruel and kids don't want to feel like they're left out. So if you have one kind of ringleader saying this is what it is and everybody's going to follow them, where were you kind of in that pecking order amongst the kids in your school?
Well, I always knew I was different, and I was always really smart. So I was always with the smart kids, and I was with them, but I was always different. I was the only Mexican girl in that group. So that was really hard for me because I didn't really have too many friends. And what was harder was the fact that a lot of the boys liked me and the girls couldn't stand me because of my nice black long hair.
Mm.
So one day after school, like this girl in third grade followed me home and kept pulling my hair and pulling my hair and pulling my hair. So I defended myself and I turned around and we got into a fight. Went home, cried my eyes out because that was the first time I had ever fought. And it was really hard for me. But that's how I began to learn, that I was a little bit different. And those were like the beginning of the days of knowing that sometimes your beauty is not welcome.
I I just think of so many people who have been hated on, especially as little kids, right? For, especially girls for developing early, being taller than anybody else, looking at like, geez, the cruelness that can come. Growing up, how did you ever come to a point where you knew maybe yes, I'm Mexican. Yes, there's not very Mexicans in this area, but did you ever come to like a peace with that and within the like were you able to really develop friendships with other Latinos growing up or were you having to look outside the Latina community in order to build friendships?
So I used to go to the park. And so we had a park 2 blocks down the street, and I learned to play volleyball. And so that's where I ended up having my Mexican friends. And there's one person too, Irene, and we still talk till this day. And we would walk together to school, going and coming back. And we always just had each other's back. And she would always tell me, "You're so crazy, Miriam. Like, why? Why did you do that?" I said, "She came up to me. What do you want me to do?" Right? So, yeah, and that's how I ended up having friends. that's how I ended up working and being able to be around older people.
Mm.
So when I played volleyball, I was probably, I don't know, 12 to like 17 or so. And then I learned how to play so well that when I got to high school, I made it to varsity volleyball as a freshman.
Ooh, that is good.
Yeah. And so more hate there because I'm the freshman, the little short freshman who's like spiking
You're
and
like, okay, now it's not for being Mexican, it's for being a freshman on the varsity team.
exactly. And then I we have my entire family played volleyball. So they have even won championships. And the coach was super excited that she was like, "Oh my God, you're a Simon, you're a Simon. We have others and things like that. Your uncle played, right? Your aunts played." I said, "Yeah, they did." I didn't know what a big deal it was, right? And it was so good until it wasn't. So what happened is I had a little boyfriend and my mom was like, "You can't play volleyball anymore," and literally picked me up and took me home.
What?
Yeah.
Why didn't she want you to play volleyball
So
anymore?
she was part of a religion. So she's Jehovah Witness. And she didn't think that I should be playing any sports. And it was hard and there was a lot of things that I couldn't do. And she thought that I was just hanging out with him. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm playing volleyball. You can come and sit here with me. Like you could come and watch my games. And she just didn't let me play. She didn't let me play.
I didn't. Is that something that's normal within Jehovah Witnesses? I mean, I know that there's a lot of things like as far as not celebrating holidays and birthdays. And I think in regards to medicine, there's some things, am I correct? Right.
Yes.
Um, but
They
I
don't take
didn't,
blood.
yeah, but I didn't realize it was a like you couldn't participate in after school activities either.
No, the sports or the competition or something like that. I don't even know what it was because at that point I wasn't listening to anybody. I wasn't listening to her at all. I was just pissed off that I couldn't play.
Oh, well, I bet because obviously you found a purpose in volleyball, right? You found connection. You found a way to be able, like, obviously, when you're playing sports, especially in high school and college, it's keeping you in shape. It's giving you focus. It's giving you friends. It's giving you all of these things. What happens when that gets taken away? What, in your case, what happened when that gets taken away?
It was horrible. It was one of those moments where you feel shut down and you feel like, damn, this is something good that's in my life. Like, why does she have to take it away from me, right? Why does her being a part of that religion negatively affect me so bad? And that was just the first of many things and one of the things that happened because I couldn't be with my grandparents either. You know, as Mexicans, we like to have weddings y bautizos, and we have
Yeah.
big families, and there's a party every weekend. So, like I had to even escape from home to go with my grandparents. I had to literally like go through the door, and my mom would be standing at the door and would not let me leave. And I'm like, Mom, I am going with my grandma and grandpa. I am going. And she would not allow it, but I made it through to the other side.
Is that something that maybe, because I feel like as a kid, anytime something like this happens in our lives, it either makes us appreciate, I feel, or in the, like, how did it affect you and religion just overall? I would imagine that it kind of put a sour taste in your mouth.
It did. And I grew up Catholic with my grandma and grandpa. And so my grandma and grandpa lived down the hallway. We lived in the same building. We were in apartment 17 and my grandparents were in apartment 15. And it was very hard because I didn't see the why it was dividing us, but it was totally dividing us. And now that I'm older, I understand why my mom needed that in her life because she was the only person here without her family. And so she came to the US with me at 15. So she
So
was
your
very young.
grandparents was your
My
dad's side?
father's. Yeah, my father's family. And so she was surrounded by my father's family, where they took his side on all the stuff that he did, right? So that was really hard. And so she needed to find peace somewhere. And that's where she found it. And then she was trying to bring us along with it. I'm the oldest of seven.
Ooh,
And
I'm the
yeah,
oldest of just three though, but seven, that's a lot.
yeah, seven, eight, if you count my sister that passed. And yeah, it was really hard because we couldn't be a family. It felt like we just couldn't be a family. So not only was my dad in and out of the house, and not only was there like a lot of different types of abuse, but now on top of that, we had religion dividing us as well. So that really became important when I, after I had my kids, right? So I met someone at 17, 18, and I thought I was in love and all this other stuff, right?
It's because your
And
mom pulled you out of volleyball. That's why.
listen, listen, and this was another guy. It wasn't even that same one. And the good thing is that I was always smart. So school always kept me showing me like bits and pieces of, girl, you could make it. Like you could get out of this. You could do something else. And so I had my kids very young. I have three by the time I was 21.
Uy,
Yeah, exactly. My kids now are 24, 25, going on six, and 27, my son.
girl, you were a baby with
Mm-hmm.
three kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I
even
remember
like,
me, I remember myself at 21. I was wild. There's no way I could have
listen, the
kids.
wild days came. They came. They just came a little bit after that. And then I, what I did is I had my three kids. So it was really important for me to be a mom. I always wanted to be a mom, and that relationship didn't work out. And so at that moment I was learning about myself. I started to, once I became an adult and I started to see there's another life out there for me to live. I could create the life that I want. And so I began to think about that. And then when I began to learn about self awareness and self esteem, that's when I began to really see, hey, I have a lot of things that I've learned that are not good, that I'm comfortable with. And that's why I am here where I'm at now with three kids. So you have to either change that now or live the same life. And so I chose differently. So then out of the blue at like 23, I meet a woman who works with me and fall in love with her. And I was like, are you crazy?
Where did this go? You're like, wait, where did this come from?
And
I
I
want to go
know.
back a little
Yeah,
bit back
yeah,
because I
go.
want to hear this whole story because I love hearing people's origin stories because it's so much of where like why they're doing what they're doing now. When you found yourself at that place at 21 years old with three kids, obviously you and your relationship doesn't work out. You obviously, regardless of age, right? But 21 is still young, but you're officially kind of an adult, even though, girl, 21. My mom was 21 when she had me. So, and yeah, I'm just like, again, I just remember myself and thinking, oh, hell no, there's no way. But at this point, like what type of work were you doing? And when you find yourself as a single mom in the East Coast, in New Jersey, like obviously, I think we all have our biases in regards to what we think New York, New Jersey is. I go there pretty often. My friend now lives in New Jersey, so I stay with her when I'm there. But still, when you're that age and you find yourself with that huge responsibility as a single mother, where do you turn? Like, what was it in your head? Obviously, your kids mean everything to you because you're like, I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
What how do you move on at that
Mm-hmm.
such a young age with such great responsibility and ensuring that you're the one who can keep you and your kids together?
Mhm.
Where do you go?
So thankfully, as soon as I turned 18, my aunt Gloria had an airport job. And so she said to me, in order for you to go to college and be able to pay for those extra things you need, I'll help you get a car, you get a job, and I'll make sure, because at that moment I was in college, right? I was going to, I was part of an EOF program. And that was right before I got pregnant from my son at 18. So I graduated high school in June. By July, I was working at the airport. And so what I remember from my history books was how they would talk about transportation being the way that people would make money. So now I ended up working at the airport, which is a transportation, right? In the transportation industry. And
Right.
that's where I've been. I don't work at the airport anymore, but I work in the transportation industry. And so I just remember my aunt was the one who told me, get yourself to work, right? And then when they found out I was pregnant, everybody was pretty upset. And then I had another one, and then I had another one, and the relationship went sour. And I was still working, but my aunt was the one who said to me, girl, go back to work, because my kid's father was actually telling me not to go back to work. And when my aunt spoke to me, she says, no, you need to have your own things for your own self.
Oh, girl.
And I got the chills too. And if you don't know where this is going to take you. So, because she already knew. She knew what this guy was about. They know better than us, and I was the last one to
Yes.
see it.
No, I just think because of all of this red pill manosphere stuff that's going on where they don't want women to work, they don't want this, they don't want that. Well, it's this exact reason. What is a woman supposed to do if, you know, their man just up and leaves and you have not worked in years and you have kids to support and this is like so when you're saying that, thank you, Tia Gloria. Thank
Sí,
you, Tia Gloria,
sí.
because
And
she made sure your head was like on straight.
yeah. Yeah, and she was the one who graduated college. She was the one who had a car, who was driving. She was the one who was traveling. She was the one who was doing everything I wanted to do. So I said, okay, she's telling me to do this. I think I should listen to her, right? I'm like, this is one person that I think I need to listen to. And so I did. And it really helped, because had I not done that, I would not be in the executive role that I am today. I would not. That is where it started. That's where it ended up. That's why other women, opening doors for other women is so important, regardless of the baggage that you bring, regardless of where you come from,
Yeah.
right? That was hard. And she said to me, at 6 weeks, once a doctor clears you, girl, go back to work. And I did, every time.
Wine break. Time to refill that glass and come back for more wine and chisme. Hola, Wine and Chisme familia. We've got some exciting news to share. The Wine and Chisme now has a voicemail line. That's right, you can literally call us, leave your thoughts, questions, or even suggest topics you want us to dive into on future episodes. Whether you want to share how an episode resonated with you, or ask about previous wines we've featured, or even tell us about your own chisme, we want to hear your voice. Porque este podcast has always been about connection, and now we can make that connection even more real. So grab your phone and call us at 858-304-0266. Leave us a message, tell us your name, where you're calling from, and whatever's on your heart. Who knows? Your voice might be featured on an upcoming episode. Because at the end of the day, Wine and Chisme is about all of us coming together, sharing our stories, and celebrating our community. Now, be a part of the podcast in a whole new way. Again, that number is 858-304-0266. We want to hear from you. So your relationship goes sour. You're now a single mom and you meet somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Continue. Spill the chisme, Miriam.
The chisme gets good, okay? This is where the chisme gets good. And it was so funny because I had dabbled in that pond before. I had a
Uh-huh.
little girlfriend when I was in elementary school. And I don't think I've ever said this out loud or publicly, but I'm letting you know on the chisme, okay? And so
Let
what
me sip my
happened?
wine while you spill that chisme.
And so she met me at a time where my grandpa had left the house and my grandma had left the house because he had a stroke. So now he moved in with my tia Gloria. And now I needed to pay the rent and I needed to pay the bills and I needed to pay all kinds of stuff. And we met at work, hanging out. And this is where the fun begins. This is where I begin to have fun and I start hanging out. And that's how I met her. And she had a boyfriend. And it gets to the point where she says to me, "Hey, I'm gonna go see my grandparents in Puerto Rico for like 13 days. You wanna come with me?" Didn't think anything of it. Go. Girl, the chemistry was fire like this shirt. Okay, fire. And we were so magnetic, but nothing happened because we were respecting her grandparents. We're grandparents. I was like, we ain't doing anything like that.
It
And we were
was
both,
that like chemistry, that burning where that anticipation.
yes,
Ooh.
girl. Let me tell you. And we were just so into it. We enjoyed each other's company so much. And I remember it was my daughter's birthday, and that was the one time that I could not celebrate her birthday because I had no money. I was starting to pay the bills in the car, insurance, right? I wasn't making a lot of money. And she was the only person that came to bring a gift for my daughter that day. I'll never
Oh.
forget. And she's been there for us every single day. And this year we celebrate 20 years together.
Yay! Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
awesome, girl.
Yes, thank you.
I think that's like such a huge thing is I think that's often how women when people are like, "Well, how did you not know?" Well, I think a lot of women are attracted to men and women. But when that right person comes, then you just can't help it, right? And let's be honest, naked women are a lot easier to look at than naked men. I love
Agreed.
I love my husband, but I stand by that.
Oh my God, that's so true. Yeah, I always used to think about that too. And actually, I remember having a crush on a college teacher, college professor. And but I just never acted on it. And the society teaches us not to. And
Mm.
really, I had already said to myself that I was not going to be in a relationship. I was not going to bring anybody home. I was not going to do anything like that because I'm not going to be one of those moms who brings, you know, one and two and three and four and whatever. And I was like, I'm going to take it really seriously. And girl, I went to pick her up at her boyfriend's house and brought her home with me in like a month and a half.
You're all, let me take this. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. See you when I see you. It was hilarious.
When you came out to your family, what was that reaction?
Oh my gosh. Well, people started to pick up on it because she was hanging out with me all the time. And
Mhm.
so we didn't really talk about it. And I've only started talking about it really out like maybe 3 years
Really?
after the
Oh,
pandemic because
why is that?
because I hadn't fully accepted who I was. Because my mom didn't love me for that part, it was really hard for me to choose myself, even though I did, right?
Hmm.
Even though I did choose myself, and I knew the day that I can recall the day when I went to pick her up. And I said, this is going to change everything. Like, this is going to either go really well or go really wrong. And it went wrong for a while with my mom because she lived down the hall. And, it was hard. It was really hard. And until this day, she does not accept it.
Was it one of, because this has happened in my family in regards to um we have a couple people in our family that were married to other people, and I guess they had always had a close friendship. I don't remember if they said they had kissed or not. I'm trying to keep it as vague as possible because it's found like it's, you know, if my family listens to it, they'll know, but as long as they're the only ones. Once they both respectively split up with their spouses, they were together, and until one of them recently passed away over the last couple of years, that was their relationship. It was same-sex relationship. And when I had asked my cousin in regards to it, they had said that I think it was, and they're older as well, like in their 60s, maybe mid to late 60s, maybe even 70s. But it was one of those, well, I'm not gay, but this was my partner. Is that what you felt like you were saying to other people until recently?
Yeah. So labeling it was very difficult because I used to think it was wrong. Right. So I grew up thinking, and my mom would tell me every day, like even till this day, like you're living in sin and all this other things that she says to me. And so it's really hard to accept yourself when you're in that mode. Like I don't even know, right? Like I'm like, do I like men? If that were to happen, would I or not? Right? I think about that stuff and I'm like, well, I don't have to think about it anymore.
Mhm.
But it is difficult. And then that's where religion really came into play again, because that really separated her accepting me in that way. And she won't. Yeah. And so, like that putting the label on it, I couldn't talk about it and I couldn't say anything, not only because I was uncomfortable, but because it was visible that the people around me were uncomfortable. So she always came around to like my brother's wedding and we were dancing and having fun. And it was just something people knew, but we didn't talk about.
That's, oh my gosh, that's so much. I'm assuming it's most Latine families. I know it's for sure Mexican families because it was the same with my cousin Robert, who, uh, was gay and everybody knew, but nobody talked about it. Everybody knew, but nobody talked about it. It was the,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah, exactly.
it's just, it's really sad that we still have not, like, you are the same person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of
Oh
who
yeah.
you love, you are the same person.
Right.
And the fact that sometimes we have family or friends that condemn us for that, you're like, I'm not like, me loving who I love is not going to change who I am. If for some reason like, I told Antonio once, if he dies before me, I'm going to go date women because I can't deal with men. Right. Um, but that still doesn't change who I am, right? That doesn't change, like, oh, and now I'm a different Jessica, or oh, now you're a different Miriam because of that.
Mm-hmm.
No, doesn't
Yeah.
inherently change who you love,
No,
doesn't change who you are
no,
inherently.
exactly. Exactly. And what I always used to think too was like, you guys aren't walking around telling everybody who you slept with. You're not around talking about what you're doing on the weekends.
Right.
So why should I? Right? Like let's call a spade and let's just be like that, right? So I was like, if I don't choose me, right? Because this is what I saw. What I saw was my mom not being happy ever.
Mm-hmm.
And to this day, she's been by herself because my dad has been in and out of jail. So, and she told me, "You think you're going to be happy? Because I wasn't. If I never was happy, you'll never be happy either."
Wow,
Okay.
talking about putting her, her trauma on you and her hurt on you just because, I'm not happy, so you never will be. Wow. I can't even imagine the hurt that you felt when she
Exactly.
said that to you because you would think like most parents want their kids to do better, to be smarter, to be like all of these things. And I can't imagine how much that cut you inside because your mom was not saying that to you. She didn't want better for you. It was almost like if you did better than her, she would have been jealous.
Yeah. And that's how it felt all the time. And so like even me being independent and even me making more money, that's how she felt, right? And what's sad is the fact that because she couldn't live her life, because she couldn't make choices, because she didn't have options, right? She felt trapped in what she had built and what she became here. And so that's why. Like she had not lived happiness. She didn't know what that looked like. So
Well, I could see
that's
why your boss said to write a book. I mean, this is just barely scratching the surface, too. So I want to move forward because that's just wow. I want to move forward a little bit in regards to what prompted all of this. I mean, I can imagine all of the experiences, but as you get into this relationship, as you're figuring out, because you're still young, so I'm
mhm.
sure you were still trying to figure out who you were as a person, as a partner, as a mother, as in your work. What was that progression within the transportation industry? And at what point were you like, because obviously you've, and we've had so many episodes very similar in regards to we feel like we're put in the rooms, but nobody wants to hear us. It's like we're put in the rooms because they want to say no, we have somebody with this perspective, but when you give the true perspective, they don't want to hear it. When we are loud and then we're told we're too much. And then when we're quiet, we're told like it's we're always in a no-win situation. And then
Mhm.
they want one person to be the spokesperson for the entire Latina community, even though you cannot encompass one person to represent all of these countries because everybody has their own experiences. So I would love to hear what that looked like for you that brought you to the point where you're like, you know what? I figured this out for myself and I need to help other Latinas
Mhm.
and particularly leaders, or not just other Latinas, but other BIPOC leaders say, you know what? I'm going to help them take the reins in their work because I don't want to see this shit anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And so what happened is once I joined this job, I realized that because the salaries are posted. So I said, in 5 years, people are doubling their freaking income. Why not me? And they offered tuition reimbursement. So finally, after 15 years, I could go back to college. My dream to have my degree. My kids are a little older, they're in high school now. So I need to figure out how to be the example for these children and continue to be, right? And then, and remember me, my tia, right? My aunt made it. She's doing all this stuff. She had homes, she had this, she had that, businesses. And I was like, damn, how the hell do I do that? Right? So, girl, the minute I got in, I got to work. Okay, got to work. And I said, wow, I stayed 15 years in one place. Maybe if I would have done it sooner, I would have, made this money faster, earlier. And year after year, I applied to different jobs, got 9 promotions, didn't just double it, I quadrupled it. And I got involved with the EBRG, so the Hispanic Society. And they were telling me, hey, you should join the Hispanic Society. Another Latino said to me, you should join the Hispanic Society. You get to network, get to know people. So I became a member, then I became a secretary, then I became VP, then I became president. And all of these things like progression, right? Moving up and figuring it out. And then until I met one of the most powerful people in the organization who really saw me for me. And in my first meeting with her, she says to me, just be you. That's all I need you to do. Just be you. I had never had that in my entire life. And that trust, that psychological safety, that changed my life. And I was able to create, and I had so much autonomy. And she was like my sponsor. She was my sponsor. And she opened the door to so many different things. And I had met her a couple times and I had no clue she was LGBTQ plus too. And that changed everything when I found out she was, and that she's made it this far. So that gave me the vision to say, girl, you could do this shit too. And then just being so successful and just being so in tune with myself. And the pandemic really had us home alone. Had a lot of time to think, and I had a lot of time to do. And when she walked out the door because she retired, girl, I was lost. I was so scared. I said, no, I reached the peak of my career. Now, where am I going to go? Now, what am I going to do? And so, she didn't mention it, but when she was getting ready to go, I said to myself, okay, I've reached this point, but I need to get better to help other people. How do I help the people that I'm here to help? How do I do it? And so she had been a coach, and that's how I decided to become a coach too. And that really helped to begin the journey. And her walking out of my life helped me find myself. And that's when I began to not see within the job and expand outside of the job. And so when I began to expand outside of the job, that's when I started to find other Latinas and I started to find the stats, and I had felt othered and pushed to the side. So that what you were talking about being too much and all that stuff, that began to happen to me too, till this day, 3 years later. But it doesn't faze me anymore because I know who the hell I am and what I bring to the table and what I'm here to serve and what I am here to do. And I'm the one who's going to speak the truth and help other women out. So there's a lot. There's a lot, and I see the treatment, the unfairness that happens, especially now after DNI has walked out the door. So there's a lot going on right now, but thankfully, I began looking for other coaches too, and found a Latina publisher, and she had Latinas 100. So one day, crying on my way home on the train, I said, well, let me submit a story, because I was crying on the train writing. And she sent me a note saying, hey, it's the last chance. And she called me and said, hey, you're into the Latinas 100. And that's how I became an author for the first time.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have, you love talking about undivided leader work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we tend to do, and you touched on it and I touched on it in regards to, is we're I feel like success sometimes feels so far away because we're told all of the things that we're told, right? And it does feel like we have to live a second life in order to succeed. We have our and and that I'm sure that's true for most women, but it's particularly true for women who come from communities of color,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have to change the way they speak. They have to change their hair. They have to wear like hide tattoos, things like that to feel like they are going to be accepted. So, what is it talk? Because one of the things you're talking about is how to lead with your full voice, identity, and authority. What does that mean in a space where you don't necessarily feel like you can? So how is like what are some ways that we can do that without feeling otherized, I guess is the best word to say?
Yeah. So we are so accustomed to people please, right? We're so accustomed to be the nice girl. We're so accustomed to be the humble person. So there's a lot of that comes into play because of our cultural norms that we're used to. And the other part too is that like we're one person at home, we're one person with our friends, we're one person with our kids, we're one person at work, right? Like you mentioned, people begin to do that assimilation where this is what's accepted in the workplace. And so when you're putting on that costume that I call it, because you're not being your authentic self, it's hard to be true to yourself and really sell yourself for who you are because you're always performing. It doesn't feel natural, right? So I learned to do that. I learned to hide I was Mexican because I was called cheap labor. Okay. I was called cheap labor when I started that job. And then I was hiding LGBTQ plus for obvious reasons because my mom didn't accept it and people were weirded out. Like people didn't know how to accept it. And they're like, wait, but you have kids. Wait, ah, ah, ah. All these other kinds of questions came up. Then, as a woman, as a mom, right, I lost wages because of that. I didn't get promoted because I was a mom, because people didn't think I was going to be reliable. They asked me those kinds of questions back in the day. Now they don't, but before they did. And I didn't make money. So there's a person before and there's a person after being whole. And so now I don't carry that insecurity from another manager who can't stand to be in the room with me because I'm smart, because I know my work, because I know what I'm doing. I will not carry somebody else's BS because I may bring beauty into the room, right? I may bring the beauty and the brilliance. Wait, hold on. Oh, wait, hold on. She can speak too? Oh, wait, she could present. Holy smoke, she has innovation projects, right? All these things that you grow to learn and you grow to become. And a lot of times too, we're becoming who we are. So when we're becoming who we are, it feels really uncomfortable because we don't know what we don't know until we know it.
Right.
Right. So, and then to add on to that, we grow up like I grew up being the only Mexican girl who came in with, my dresses and stuff and being othered like that. You feel that. right? Like the other day, I had a green shirt and green socks, and the guy was like, "Damn, that's green." Yes, it's green.
Was it St. Patrick's Day? You're like, it's St. Patrick's Day, bitch. No.
Yes, it's green. Got a problem with it? Like, what's a big deal, right? And so we have to come in with that chingona energy that I talk about, right? You got to walk in knowing your stuff. You got to walk in being prepared. You got to walk in. They chose you to be in the room. There's a reason why they chose you to be in that room, right? And a lot of us are being like, "Ay, should I not? Should I
We
send
don't
that
want to shake
email?"
things up, or
Yeah,
or we
yeah.
don't want to bring too much attention to ourselves, but
But you got to, because
yeah.
if you don't, right? If you don't, and this is where I messed up a little bit, was the fact that I was being too quiet, too nice. I wasn't speaking up. I was joining the meeting, but I was invisible. I was at the table, but I wasn't saying anything. Even though I would think what other people thought, right? And I always ask this to leaders and to women who are at the table. I said, don't you see that you were thinking the same thing somebody else actually said? And you're like, damn, I was just thinking that. Yes. Right? So how do you do that? So you just have to be so confident in who you are and know who you are. Accept yourself for everything that you've been, everything you've done, all the mistakes you've made, right? Like understand that those are lessons that we had to learn, or things that just brought some wisdom to us somehow, some way. And now it's all prepared us to where we are so that we can bring it to the table. And yeah, sometimes we are the first. We are the ones
Somebody
that,
has to be the first. Why not it?
why
Why
not
not it be
us?
you? Right?
Right, right. Exactly. They haven't seen this before. I get it. You're not used to me. You're not used to this. You're not used to all this. That's okay. But we're gonna make it work here. We're gonna make it work.
So one of the things that you have is an assessment that is, are you unstoppable? Just so you know, I did it
Oh,
because
cool.
I wanted to see what would come up, right? Now let me share some of the questions. Let's see if I can pull it, if it lets me pull it up again. So these are some of the questions to get your Sin Miedo Authority Score. And this is a private leadership readiness assessment for high performing Latinas. And it does say this is not a personality quiz, it's a private leadership diagnostics for high performing Latina executives and founders who are done shrinking. So in it, there's some more things. It's not for people looking for motivation, unwilling to examine themselves, and people comfortable staying small. This is for leaders ready to integrate their full authority fully sin miedo. So a few of the questions, I won't read all of them. And it's not, I think it's only 11 questions. So it's not extensive at all. It says, I feel safe being myself at work without worrying how it will be used against me. And then I hide or downplay parts of my background, culture, identity, or personal story to appear more professional. I change how I speak, act, or show up depending on who is in the room. I often over prepare or overperform because I feel I have more to prove than others. I hold back ideas, opinions, or leadership instincts because I don't want to be judged or misunderstood. So that's like half of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make sure to put in the link to take it in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
But so I did, my score was 37. And 37 means powerful, but still holding back. Now, the only reason I think it was is because I work part time at a nonprofit around kids. So I do have to be careful of what I say sometimes. That's the only reason. Otherwise, the rest of the time I work straight on the podcast. And yes, I do feel like I get to be who I am because this is just like your podcast. Like, it's fully you. This is fully me.
Mm-hmm.
But so what it said is you're doing the work, you're producing results, and it feels heavier than it should. And that is honestly, oh no, I'm sorry. You're capable, respected, and trusted. and you're still editing yourself. You've learned how to succeed, but not without managing, filtering, and protecting parts of who you are. That strategy worked until now. This score means that you're at the threshold where leadership breakthroughs happen. That's my score.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my score said. So, how did this come about, this assessment? Because I feel like you don't really see that, right? In a lot of times when you're working with people, I've not ever seen somebody say, hey, I want to figure out where you're at. Like, take this quiz and it'll help us, kind of give us a starting point of where you're at. So, how did that come about?
It came about because of the all the things I was hiding, right? Like hiding being culturally Mexican, right? You know you're Latina, but then if you say you're Mexican, people are going to think something else. So I was editing myself all the way up until recently. And so I want people to begin to think and become aware of where they are editing themselves, where they're over preparing, where they're are they trying to prove themselves over and over again, even though they were chosen, right? And the perception of what other people think is really important to Latinos, right? Like me knowing my mom, what she thought and how other people perceived us as a family was super important. So I want people to begin to challenge those norms that we've grown up with, right? Because they go, siéntate aquí, do this, dress this way, go to church this way, all that stuff, right? Don't wear strapless, right? My mom, don't wear strapless. You have to cover up. You have to close your legs. You have to, it's like all kinds of stuff. So when you do that, you bring that into the workplace. And then you are in a position where you're the authority and you're the power and you don't know how to do that because you're always asking for permission to do stuff. So I used to say to myself, this guy, he says, I don't ask for permission, I ask for forgiveness. And I was like, ta loco? Ta loco?
Yep, I've heard that. I've used that before.
Right? Ta loco. And then I was like, oh my God. No, I get it now. Right? Now I think differently. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. So then because you're waiting for permission to make decisions, to send the email, to make things work, to put yourself in the to speak at the deck, to speak about the presentation in front of the executives, you give other people the opportunity to do so.
You never become a leader when
Exactly.
you are asking for permission.
Right. So if you're always like, hey, can I do this? Hey, can I do that? Right? That weakens your authority. So that
Now,
I
this
want
is
people,
talking about work. This is not talking about what's happening in the White House. Just so you know, you need to ask for permission. You better be.
that's funny.
No, I think that's so true because especially as women, we're often, overlooked. We do need somebody that if you aren't speaking up, you're seen as timid and not doing what is supposed to be done. But if you speak up, you're seen as abrasive. And I have been called that for sure. You're seen as abrasive, you're not seen as a lead. Like it's weak, it's always uh a double standard when it comes to
Mm-hmm.
women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always a double standard when it becomes a triple standard and a quadruple standard. Like in your case, you're a woman, you're part of the LGBTQ community, you're Latina. I mean, you got it's like boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
all of those things that people could see, but you're like, look, I'm more than that. I'm me, I'm here. And to be able to share that with other women and like I said, having the starting point by taking this assessment to really say, okay, this is where you're at. And now I know how I can help you.
Right. Exactly. And that's compounding bias, what you were mentioning.
Yes.
because it's one bias after another bias to another one, to another one, to another one. So then a lot of us are carrying that with us. And so when you're carrying that, you're divided in so many different ways because you can only show those identities with certain people. So you're always filtering yourself. And that in leadership is not going to help you if you want others to follow you. Like people can see, come on, where we come from, you can see fake from anywhere, right? And even if what happens too is the fact that you don't do your best work because you're holding back. People would tell me, Miriam, we want more from you. We want more from you. Well, I can't give you any more. What do you want from me? And I didn't realize I was doing all of that. And once I did, because I was given that permission, then I realized, and I was like, girl, I need to tell my people. I need to let them know right away that they do not need to keep waiting for permission. You could do this on your own. And so the assessment is a way to see where it's happening and see where you are and recognize that it's a starting point as to where you want to go and how you want to be. Because being unstoppable the way that I feel now, right? People still judge me. People still criticize me. People still think I'm loud. I mean, with this voice, I had to learn how to speak at the airport. Hundreds of people on a platform. It's me or is 100 of them? No, honey, we're going to tell them where they're going to go. So I'm going to make these announcements as loud as I can. And sometimes you do need to be loud and you need to have authority and you need to
Maybe that's
speak.
where I need to, if I ever got a job, maybe that's where I need to go get a job. Let me just do the announcements at the airport.
Maybe, right? So those are the things that sometimes happen that we don't realize that we're doing. And when we come into the room being shy and timid and holding back and like reverting into the turtle, they're not gonna see us as a leader. And even though these people do, right? I not only have the receipts, I've built leverage. So in building leverage, regardless of what they say, regardless of how many rejections for promotions that they give you, they cannot move you and they cannot hurt you. And once you show that to them, they stop bullying you and they stop doing it because it no longer hurts you and no longer negatively affects you. Because what they do is they micromanage and they try to control sometimes. And so, in that, for us, that's how it feels.
Yeah. I love that you still work your 9 to 5 and sharing this because I think sometimes people end up, you become so disconnected because not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay. I feel like we have this hustle culture that if you're not an entrepreneur, it's not worth, like, what are you doing? No, it's okay. Like, everybody brings different strengths to this world, and some people are not meant for that. Some people are meant to do that with a side hustle. Some people are just meant to be like, it's okay if that's not what you want to do. So I do love that you still have a 9 to 5, and I'm sure what you're doing on the daily is always informing. Do you try out do you test some of your tactics before you add them to your training and everything? Like, you know what? This hasn't been working for me. What if I do this, or what if I change this? Like, how does that work for you?
Yeah, so it gives you great content because in the world that we're living in, girl, there is content everywhere. And when you come from a first place experience, like you're living it, you know what other people are going through. You know what other people are living. You know what other people are feeling. And so that helps me to continue to inform my content. So when people think, damn, girl, you have a weekly podcast, yes, there is content every day, honey. There is content every single day. So what I do is I think to myself, okay, what would be helpful from this experience? If it's a negative one or a positive one, what is the benefit that I can share? Right? And so because I learned that only 4% and now it's the number got lower, 3.3%, of Latinas are in managerial roles, I said, whoa, I used to be 4%. Now it's 3.3, right? So then when you learn those numbers, it becomes even more important, especially for me. This is my personal decision to stay at this job because I feel like if I walk out and nobody else is here having the same type of access, the same type of experience, the same type of leverage, our community is going to miss out on it. And so that's what keeps me employed. And I love what I do. I'm doing a great job. Like the job, I'm helping hundreds of people get promoted and have numbers that give results. So why would I give that up because somebody doesn't like me? Right? I earned my spot. Like why would I walk out because somebody has a problem with the way that I speak? Like yeah, I can talk to it because I've been told you can't speak to senior executives, but you can speak to the other employees. And I'm like, really? But yet I'm speaking to the main senior executive every month. You make sure I'm there. You know what I mean? So I don't care. I'm not worried about other people's opinion. At this point, at this place where I'm at, I'm really happy about where I'm at, what I've earned, and I'm not going anywhere, como dice Bad Bunny.
That's right. As we wrap up, and girl, I could like there's so many more questions swirling in my head, but I'm trying to respect our your time, my time, listeners' time. You can go to Miriam's website at Miriam Simon online. Her Instagram is I am Miriam Simon, LinkedIn at Miriam Simon, YouTube I am Miriam Simon, and then I will put the links to all of that, and I'll also include the assessment Are You Unstoppable in the show notes as well. I want to make sure, like, if there's anything, I know that there's probably so much more you wanted to say, so much more I wanted to get to, but this would end up being like a 3-hour episode. If there's anything else you want to add, you want to make sure that people are aware of, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So I am obsessed with amplifying women's voices. And so what I just opened up is MEC House. So it's a press company because I want to share your stories. So if you have a badass Chingona energy, main character story like I do, and I'm pretty sure so many of us do because we're out there, right?
Yeah.
I want to be there to help guide you through it and publish your book. And that is like one of the biggest things that just fell into my lap the other day. And it's not just the other day, but a little while ago. But it fell into my lap. It feels like the other day. And to me, it's just so important because we have so many different stories from our different generations or parents or grandparents that have not been told. And that's the reason why we are who we are today. And it's going to equip the next generation. So it's important for us to share that information and for us to continue the conversation. And because I love history, right? I learned in history that I needed to travel, that transportation was it to get to those jobs. This is how we can help the next generation figure life out when we're no longer here.
I'm obsessed with history. I love history. I've been watching way too many documentaries
Oh, I
lately.
love them too. I learn from everybody. My favorite quote,
Yeah.
yeah, my favorite quote is I not only use the brains I have, but all the brains of everybody else. Something like that.
Oh, well, I quote my mom because she taught me from a young age the answer is always no if you don't ask the question.
Mm. And it's so true.
Yeah.
So true. Like if you don't ask for that promotion, if you don't ask for that position, right? If you take on a project and don't ask, well, what's the benefit for me? Right? We're not used to it. My grandpa would say, no andes de pidichi, no andes de pidichi. Stop asking for stuff.
Yeah. Nope, that's what my mom would always tell me.
Love that.
She's like, Mija, go ask. I'm like, I don't want to. She's like, then the answer is already no. And I didn't get it at first. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, what if you ask and they say yes? But if you don't ask, it's no, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So that's what I grew up with, and that's something that I kind of live by now, right? Is the answer is always no if you don't ask the question. And by I think doing that, we center ourselves in a way, and I think that's a healthy way to center yourself
Mm-hmm.
because you are taking a chance, right? But also asking permission from somebody else at the same time. So it's like a different, not necessarily ask for forgiveness, don't ask for permission because you still are asking. But I just think as women, often we don't center ourselves as much as we should.
Mm-hmm.
And uh I think this world would be a whole lot better if we did.
Yes. Agreed.
Yes. Miriam, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing so much. I appreciate it. I love when people say, like, my favorite words when I'm talking to somebody is, I've never really told anybody this before.
It's called wine and chisme. So I said, you know what? I was called chismosa when I
Yes.
was a little kid. So I knew this was going to be good. And I said, well, you know what? I am not holding back. So thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited and happy I got to spend this time with you and the listeners. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And until next time, mi gente.
Hola, mi gente. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Wine and Chisme podcast. If you would like to hear more wine and more chisme, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Saludos.